There are those among us who quietly carry a kind of rare inner architecture, an intricate design of thought, feeling, and perception that sets them apart in ways they often cannot fully articulate. If you've ever felt that your way of moving through the world doesn't quite mirror the people around you, that your perceptions seem deeper, sharper, or somehow older than your years, you may be among those whose personalities are not merely uncommon, but extraordinarily rare. One of the first and most unmistakable signs that you possess a rare personality is your extraordinary capacity to feel. You move through life as though your senses are tuned to frequencies that others cannot hear, and this sensitivity shapes everything you encounter. To you, a passing remark is never just a passing remark. It can be an arrow that pierces straight to your heart, or a balm that soothes something ancient within you. This depth of feeling can be both your greatest strength and your greatest burden. From an early age, you may have noticed that the world seemed too bright, too loud, too penetrating. Perhaps you cried when others laughed, or you found yourself overwhelmed by sensations that barely registered for those around you. Even as you grew older, you never quite learned to dull this intensity, no matter how much you wished you could. Your nervous system feels almost translucent, as if every vibration from the outer world passes straight through you without resistance. People have likely tried to label you sensitive, overly emotional, dramatic. They said these words as if they were indictments, as though your way of being was a flaw that you were obligated to correct. But the truth is that your capacity for feeling is not a defect. It is evidence that you are alive in a way many people are not. Where others skim the surface, you dive headfirst into the depths. Where others are content to exist in numbness, you insist on experiencing the full range of what it means to be human. I once knew a young woman who described her life as living without skin. Every rejection felt catastrophic. Every kindness felt transcendent. She would lie awake at night replaying moments from her day, dissecting every interaction, feeling every nuance of connection or alienation. At times, she thought there was something irreparably wrong with her, that she was simply too fragile to survive in a world that demands a thicker hide. But as she matured, she began to see that her sensitivity allowed her to perceive what others overlooked. She could feel the sadness behind a friend's forced smile, the quiet desperation in a stranger's eyes. She could sense when someone was in pain long before they ever spoke it aloud. This is the paradox of your temperament. You are often wounded by life, but you are also gifted with a kind of X-ray vision into the souls of others. Your empathy is not merely intellectual, it is visceral. You don't imagine what others feel. You actually feel it within your own body. Neuroscientists have studied this phenomenon and discovered that people with high levels of emotional sensitivity often have a more active mirror neuron system, the part of the brain responsible for attuning to others' states. When someone else is hurting, your nervous system doesn't differentiate. It responds as though the pain is your own. Because of this, you may find that you need more time alone than most people. Solitude is not a retreat for you. It is a necessity. It is in solitude that you can finally uncoil, release what you have absorbed, and hear the quiet truth of your own voice again. Without these periods of withdrawal, your emotional intensity can become a kind of static that drowns out your clarity and leaves you feeling depleted. This is why it's essential to understand that your depth requires care. You cannot expect yourself to live at full volume all the time without consequence. Just as the ocean needs moments of stillness, you need rituals of restoration. Some find this in journaling, others in nature, others in practices that reconnect them to the steady rhythm of their breath. Whatever it looks like for you, consider it a sacred responsibility to honor the vessel that carries your extraordinary sensitivity. But perhaps the most important lesson is this: your feelings are not liabilities to be managed. They are instruments to be played. They are the means by which you detect the hidden layers of existence the quiet currents of meaning that most people miss as they hurry across the surface of their lives. When you feel deeply, you are tapping into something older and wiser than any single moment of pain. You are embodying a consciousness that remembers how interconnected everything truly is. Think of the times when your sensitivity has allowed you to be the one who reached out when no one else noticed. The times when your intuition warned you that something wasn't right and you were later proven correct. The times when your compassion healed wounds you couldn't even see. These are not coincidences. They are proof that your way of experiencing the world is not only valid, but vital. There will be moments when this gift feels unbearable, when you wish you could trade your depth for the protective armor that others seem to wear so easily. But if you did, you would lose the very qualities that make you who you are. You would forfeit your capacity to love in a way that is complete and fearless, to create art that vibrates with truth, to stand as a witness to the beauty and the suffering that coexist in every human life. In the end, your emotional intensity is not something to outgrow. It is something to grow into. It is the foundation of your rare personality, the soil from which your wisdom, your creativity, and your capacity for connection will continue to grow. And while it may mean you walk through the world feeling more than others, it also means you are awake in a way that many people never are. So when you are tempted to apologize for your depth, when you feel the urge to diminish yourself to fit the comfort of others, remember this. Your feelings are evidence that you are alive to the fullest measure. And though the world may never fully understand this about you, it does not diminish the truth of it. You are not too much. You are exactly as you are meant to be. One of the most striking hallmarks of a rare personality is an insatiable hunger for authenticity. You are not content with the shallow satisfactions that others so easily accept. While many people are soothed by illusions, social niceties, polite lies, or stories they tell themselves to avoid discomfort, you feel almost physically repelled by anything that isn't real. It is as though you carry an internal compass that points unerringly to the truth beneath appearances. Even when that truth is painful or inconvenient, you prefer it to the safety of a comforting fiction. This hunger for truth often begins in childhood. Perhaps you remember a moment when you first realized that adults did not always mean what they said, that their smiles sometimes masked resentment or grief. Maybe you felt disoriented, even betrayed by the realization that the surface of things could not be trusted. Most people, faced with this tension, learn to look away, to let the surface remain unchallenged because it is simpler. But you could not look away. You found yourself studying the spaces between words, the tone beneath the polite laughter, the quiet flicker in someone's eyes when they were about to lie. Over time, this sensitivity to what is real and what is false became a guiding principle in your life. You learned that you could not feel fulfilled in relationships where you were expected to play a part or conceal your true feelings. You discovered that you could not stay in work that required you to betray your own values for the sake of approval or financial gain. These realizations can be isolating because the world often rewards conformity more than integrity. You may have found yourself standing alone, unwilling to compromise your authenticity just to be accepted. And yet, despite the loneliness, you knew in your bones that the price of abandoning your truth was too high. I once spoke with a man who described this impulse vividly. He said, "It's like having a hunger that never goes away. I can't pretend to be satisfied by superficial things. I need to know what's real, even if it shatters me." That hunger, though it can feel like a burden, is also what gives your life its depth and its meaning. Because you refuse to settle for the half-truths that pacify others, you are constantly evolving. You are willing to question everything, your beliefs, your assumptions, even your own identity, because you would rather be undone by honesty than preserved by illusion. This is why at times people may find you intimidating. Your presence alone can feel confronting, not because you are aggressive, but because you embody a radical commitment to seeing things as they are. When you look at someone, they often feel seen in ways they did not expect, or perhaps did not want. They sense that you will not collude with their pretense, and that your attention is like a mirror that reflects their hidden contradictions. Some will be drawn to this clarity, finding it liberating. Others will resent it, accusing you of being too intense, too serious, too unwilling to let things go. But you cannot apologize for your need to be real. It is the cornerstone of your being. This longing for authenticity also shapes the way you love. You are not satisfied by relationships built on performance or convenience. You crave connections that are honest to the core, where both people are willing to stand naked in their truth, even if it means facing uncomfortable revelations. You want to know the hidden fears, the unspoken dreams, the private wounds that shape the people you care about. Surface level interactions leave you empty because you know that genuine intimacy can only grow in the soil of honesty. Yet, this depth of inquiry comes with risks. You may struggle to find others who can meet you there, who will not flee when the conversation turns from pleasantries to soul searching. You may have had friends who drifted away because your presence challenged them to question the stories they clung to. You may have had lovers who were captivated by your intensity at first, but later recoiled when they realized you would not participate in their denial. These losses can be painful, but they are also proof that you are committed to something more important than comfort. In a world that often rewards masks and punishes sincerity, you are a living reminder that truth is worth any cost. Studies have shown that people who prioritize authenticity, even when it creates conflict or discomfort, report higher levels of meaning and satisfaction in life. They may face more friction in their relationships, but they also experience a depth of connection that cannot be manufactured through pretense. You have likely felt this paradox yourself: the loneliness that comes from refusing to lie, and the quiet joy that comes from knowing you are living in alignment with your soul. The gift of your hunger for truth is that it will keep you from ever going numb. It will keep you awake to the complexities of existence, the beauty and the terror that coexist in every moment. Where others retreat into distraction or denial, you remain present, willing to look directly into the heart of things. This capacity is not weakness, it is courage in its purest form. And so, when you find yourself weary of being the one who cannot settle for easy answers, remember that this longing is what sets you apart. It is the reason your life will never be small or shallow. It is the reason your relationships, though fewer, will be richer and more transformative. It is the reason you will leave this world knowing that you did not squander your chance to live honestly. It is often in the quiet moments, those late hours when the world finally falls silent, that you feel it most. The persistent awareness that you do not quite belong anywhere. This sensation is not merely a passing insecurity, but a deeper, almost cellular recognition that you were never meant to fit the molds others inhabit so comfortably. While some people are content to blend into the tapestry of collective identity, you were born with a different imperative. And, so to me with this, I want to put it into the context of how you are here to forge your own path, even if it means you must first walk alone. From early on, you sensed that the rules others followed with such certainty did not speak to something essential within you. When your peers were eager to adopt the expectations handed down to them, what to value, whom to admire, how to measure success, you hesitated, not out of defiance for its own sake, but because you felt an inner resistance to surrendering your autonomy. You looked around and saw a theater of borrowed convictions, a performance in which everyone played a part but few understood why. That awareness is the beginning of the outsider's journey. Many will never understand how costly this path can be. They will see only the visible choices. the careers you decline because they would suffocate your spirit, the relationships you end because they demand your self-betrayal, the customs you refuse to honor because they demand your soul. What they cannot see is the weight of that constant separation, the ache of longing to belong, even as you know that any place that requires you to abandon your truth is not a home, but a prison. I once met a man who had walked away from a life most people would envy, a prestigious job, social status, the comfort of collective approval. He said, "Everyone thought I was insane to give it all up, but I knew that staying would have cost me the most important thing I had, my integrity." The loneliness of that decision nearly broke him, but he discovered something essential in the process, that the price of belonging to others at the expense of yourself is far greater than the price of standing apart. This is the paradox of the rare personality. On the surface, it can appear as if you have rejected the world, but in truth, you have simply chosen to reject illusions. You would rather endure isolation than participate in the collective sleep that passes for life. You feel compelled to find your own meaning, to explore the depths of your psyche rather than live in the shallow end of consensus reality. This refusal to be anesthetized is both your burden and your liberation. It is important to understand that this path is not about superiority. It is not about believing you are better than others or that you alone hold the truth. It is simply the recognition that your nature demands something different, more honest, more alive, more congruent with the mystery that pulses at the center of all existence. You are here to ask questions that others fear to consider. You are here to break the spells that keep people chained to unexamined lives. This is why you may often feel misunderstood. You speak a language that is unfamiliar to those who have never questioned the script they inherited. And so just speak in the language that is unfamiliar to those who have never questioned the script they inherited. You see patterns that others do not notice, and when you try to share your insights, you are met with blank stares or polite dismissal. Sometimes you are accused of being cynical, negative, or difficult, but beneath those accusations lies an unconscious fear. Fear that your refusal to conform will expose the hollowness of their own compromises. Yet, even as you carry this outsider status, you are also a beacon to those who are quietly searching for the same freedom. In the freedom, your willingness to walk your path without apology inspires others to consider that they too might choose authenticity over acceptance. Even if you never meet them, your courage plants seeds in places you will never see. In this way, your life becomes a living testament that it is possible to remain true to yourself no matter the cost. The process of forging your own path also demands that you cultivate resilience. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when the solitude feels unbearable, and you wonder if you have made a terrible mistake. In those moments, you must return to the still place inside you, the place that knows why you chose this road in the first place. It is there that you will find the strength to continue, not because you are certain of where you are going, but because you are certain of who you are. Psychologists have observed that people with a rare and independent nature often experience higher levels of existential anxiety. You cannot numb yourself with distraction or compliance. You are compelled to grapple with life's deepest questions. What does it mean to be alive? What is worth sacrificing for? How do I live without betraying my soul? While this inquiry can feel exhausting, it is also what ensures that you will never settle for a life half-lived. Over time, you will begin to notice something miraculous. As you commit fully to your own path, the sense of alienation begins to transform into something else, something closer to belonging, but not the kind you once sought from others. It is a belonging to your own unfolding, a sense that even though you are different, you are exactly where you are meant to be. The path you have chosen may be narrow and unmarked, but it is also alive with purpose, with the quiet thrill that comes only to those who dare to chart their own course. So when you find yourself standing apart, when the familiar ache of your outsiderhood rises in your chest, remember this: you are not alone. Across time and space, there have always been those who could not conform, whose very existence was an invitation to awaken. Your life is part of that lineage, and though it may never be easy, it will always be real. And that, in the end, is what makes it worth everything. In the end, the journey of carrying a rare and unyielding spirit is not about finding a place where you finally fit neatly into the expectations of the world. It is about learning to stand firmly in who you are, even when no one understands you. It's about simply being bold enough to sit with yourself and sit with the people you. It is about recognizing that your hunger for truth, your commitment to authenticity, and your refusal to betray your own nature are not flaws to be corrected, but gifts to be honored. You are never meant to blend in. You are meant to illuminate what others cannot see, to question what others dare not question, to live in a way that is fiercely, unapologetically true. Yes, it can be lonely. Yes, it can be exhausting, but it is also a path rich with purpose and alive with meaning. When you doubt yourself, remember that the world has always been shaped by those who were willing to stand apart, to think differently, to live beyond the edges of what was deemed acceptable. Your life is part of that legacy. Even if you never fully escape the feeling of being an outsider, you will know in your quietest moments that you did not trade your soul for approval. And in the end, there is no greater victory than to look back on your days and see that you lived them all awake, honest, and free.